You can have it all. You really can have it all. People love to say you can't have it all. You need to. No, it's not true. You can have it all. There are people who are counting on you to accept the call so that they can accept their call. There are people that are counting on you to do what God has instructed you to do so that they can do what God has instructed them to do. Put your hand on your chest and say, Lord, deliver me because I'm a witch. You're a witch because you see someone progressing and you're mad. Why are you mad? Why are you mad? Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Everything Risa, where we talk a little bit about everything. Today I want to talk to you about conquering your 20s. We've already established on this channel that the 20s are a little bit ghetto. They might even be the projects, because in your 20s, you're literally building the blocks of your life. You're going to school, you're trying to find a job, establish yourself in your career, you're making friends, you're falling in love, you're doing a whole lot in a little bit of time. And the decisions you make in your 20s really are the foundation and the building blocks for years to come. And so there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot going on, and we live in an economy right now where it's really hard to be an adult. And so the 20s as a whole are ghetto. In your 30s, I've heard, I'm not there yet, but I've heard things sort of level out. By then, you kind of know where you're going. You found your footing, and so it's a lot easier. But the 20s, them 20s, ghetto. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm in my final year of my 20s. I am turning 30 in 3 months. And as I look back on the last decade of my life, I'm actually proud of everything that I've accomplished, and I'm proud of my 20s. I have a huge to-do list that I wrote when I was 19 years old of things that I wanted to do in my 20s, and I've accomplished all of them. And so I'm not even mad at it. I feel like I conquered my 20s. It wasn't always smooth and simple. They had me in the first half, not gonna lie, but things sort of leveled out, and now I can confidently say that I enjoyed my 20s. So today I want to share with you 5 lessons that I learned in my 20s that helped me to conquer them so that you can conquer them too. All right, so let's get into it. Number 1, walking with God is the cheat code. Walking with God is the cheat code. Now, notice how I said walking with God and not knowing God, because I got saved when I was 19. So I actually spent the whole of my 20s knowing God, but I can't say that I spent them all walking with God. When I say walking with God, this is what I mean. Think about when you're taking a walk with someone, maybe your friend, maybe your partner, maybe your sibling. You're walking with them, right? And they're trying to talk to you. You need to be in ear level to be able to hear what they're saying. So if you're walking with someone, you try to walk at the same pace. Even if you're walking a little bit too fast, you'll try to like fall back so that you can be in the same pace with them. You wouldn't go ahead of them and you wouldn't lag behind them. You would try to walk with them, hand in hand, foot in foot, same pace, same stride. You get where I'm going with this. That's the same thing it means to be walking with God. If you're walking with God and you're walking ahead of Him, it's wrong. If you're walking with God and you're walking behind Him, it's wrong. When walking with God, you have to be walking at the same pace, in direct alignment with Him, so you can be in ear level to hear what He's trying to say to you. Imagine you're walking with someone and they're speaking to you in their regular speaking voice. If you're behind them, you're not going to hear anything. If you're ahead of them, you're not going to hear anything. Unless they're screaming it out or they're literally turning around to address you, you won't hear unless you're in the same pace with them. And that's what walking with God is. Being in the same pace with God, on the same time as God, in alignment with His will for your life. And that is the cheat code for conquering your 20s. Because God knows the end from the beginning. He knows everything concerning your life, and He knows everything concerning the lives of everybody that you will meet and everybody that you will encounter on this earth. With that being said, when you make decisions on your own, you're subjecting yourself to a 50-50 chance of making the right decision. It's a gamble. You can make the right decision and it can go in your favor, or you may not make the right decision and it doesn't go in your favor. Why would you leave your precious life in the hands of your own mind, which can or cannot work out? when you can trust in a God that knows everything, and for sure it will work out. It don't even make sense. I'm sure you've made decisions in your life that if you look back and you're like, I wish I knew. If I knew, I wouldn't have done that, because they affected you negatively. Some decisions you can't even come back from. And so walking with God is a cheat code, because God will be able to direct you, to tell you, take this job, don't take this job. Go to this school, don't go to this school. Be friends with this person, stay away from this person. Date this guy, don't date this guy. And save you from making costly mistakes that you may not be able to come back from. Walking with God is a cheat code to conquering your 20s. It makes your life easy and makes your life stress free. You don't have to worry about what ifs. You don't have to take a gamble or a chance on your precious life in trying to figure out and trying to decipher someone, or trying to know the heart of men and women, which you can never know, because people are good at pretending, when you trust in God. And so if you really want to conquer your 20s and avoid making costly mistakes, you need to walk with God, hand in hand, foot in foot, pace in pace. How do you do that? By building a relationship with Him. The key to walking with God is knowing His voice. The point of walking with God is to be able to hear Him when He speaks, to be able to commune with Him, to have fellowship with Him. Now, God can be speaking and you may not hear because you don't know His voice. You don't know how He speaks to you. You don't know how He sounds, because it's different for everybody. The only way that you can reap the full benefits of walking with God and hearing His instruction is by knowing His voice. And the way you know His voice is by speaking to Him, reading your Bible, praying, and hearing Him speak to you. Then you'll be able to recognize His voice. I always use this analogy. If your mom calls you on the phone, no caller ID, you know it's her from her voice, because you're accustomed to her voice. You know her voice. The same way with God. God should be able to speak to you in any situation, in your heart, through a sermon, through the Bible, through other people, and you know it's God, because you recognize His voice and you recognize how He speaks to you. And the only way you can develop that skill is if you speak to Him more often. And the way you speak to Him is in prayer and reading your word. And so walking with God is the cheat code. Start praying, start reading your word, start understanding and recognizing His voice and being able to listen to it, and you will truly conquer your 20s. Number 2, you will never be them. Now come close for this. A little closer. One more. You will never be them. The people that you thought of when I said that, those are the people that I'm talking about. You will never be them. Now, we all have people that we admire. We all have people that we like. We all have people that we look up to. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to admire people. It's fine to look up to people. The problem is when it becomes so toxic that you try to take on their identity and neglect yours, because your admiration becomes obsessive. It happens more than you know. The thing is, you will never be them. No matter how much you try to dress like them, to try to look like them, to try to talk like them, try to act like them, you will never be them. You know why? Because you're you. And the thing is, it's kind of funny because we love to say God doesn't make mistakes. Christians, we love to use those words. God don't make no mistakes. But then God, who made you, having not made no mistakes, you look down on yourself. You look down on the beautiful masterpiece, the creation that He made, that is you, and try to be somebody else. Aren't you then saying that actually God don't make mistakes, but He made a mistake with me, so I got to be someone else? Isn't that what you're kind of low key saying when you're trying to not be the person that God made you? Isn't that what you're kind of low key saying? Because you think that you're not good enough. Who you are is not enough. And so you need to be somebody else to be enough. That would mean that God made a mistake. So then what I'm hearing is either God makes mistakes or God doesn't make mistakes, and something is leading you to believe that He has. And it's probably the second one, because we know that He don't make no mistakes. But now, why is that? Why is it that you feel like you need to be somebody else to be better? Why is it that you feel like you need to be like them or to be them to be enough? Why is who you are not enough? What you need to understand is that God made you the way He made you for a reason. Your eyes, your nose, your mouth, the parts of you that you think are not pretty, the parts of you that you think are needless, the parts of you that you overlook are all add up to make you, the you that God wanted to make you. You might think somebody else is more pretty. You might think somebody else is more smart. You might think somebody else has a better life. And we thank God for them. But what about you? If God makes no mistakes and he made you like this, that would mean that you're perfect in who you are, right? I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. We got to use logic. If it's true he makes no mistakes, that means he made no mistake with you, which means that who you are is fine. Who you are is perfect. Who you are is enough. And you need to discover that and love that person. And this is not an attack on anyone. I have definitely had times and seasons in my life, in my 20s, where I felt so insecure, where I felt I was ugly, where I felt like I wasn't enough. I needed to be someone else. But I realized that 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. So if God makes no mistakes and he made me, that means I was made with no mistakes. So I need to fall in love with myself the way that God loves me and discover who I am and who God created me to be. And that's where self-love is birthed. When you discover who God created you to be. Not who the world says you are, not who you think you are, not who others think you are, but who God says you are. And you see the beauty and the masterpiece in which he created, that is you. And you begin to love that person. You will never be them. Admire them. Look up to them, but don't try to be them. Don't try to take on their identity because you think it's better than yours. God sent you in this time period for such a time as this. God could have sent you in any period in time, but he sent you now for such a time as this because you're needed in this generation. The gifts, the talents, the wisdom, the experiences that you have are for this generation. There are people that are counting on your obedience. There are people that are counting on you to do what God has called you to do so that they can do what God has called them to do. There are people who are counting on you to accept the call so that they can accept their call. There are people that are counting on you to do what God has instructed you to do so that they can do what God has instructed them to do. It's through you that their purpose is birthed. You're needed in this generation, in this time. And so love yourself and be you. Because if you're busy being someone else, who's going to be you? Then we're going to have a vacancy. We need everybody being themselves so there's no vacancy. Okay? If you're trying to be somebody else, who's going to fill your shoes? Who's going to be you? We need you to be you. Admire people, love them, but be yourself. On the other hand, it manifests in a way of envy. You may admire someone so much and be so angry that you are not them and you will never be them that you begin to envy them. Then you begin to hate them and it begins to fester in your spirit. Your chest becomes tight when you see them doing well because you admire them so much, and because you're not them and you hate yourself for not being them, you begin to envy them. It's given witchcraft. Put your hand on your chest and say, Lord, deliver me because I'm a witch. You're a witch because you see someone progressing and you're mad. Why are you mad? Why are you mad? You have this intense admiration to the point where you begin to envy and hate somebody just because they're doing good. Your chest becomes tight and it pains you that other people like them. It's witchcraft. You need deliverance. Don't be that person. Be content with who you are so you're not out here hating for no reason because it's not a good look. Number 3, you're allowed to change your mind. This is a big one. There's so many times that I stayed in situations in my 20s that I need not be in just because I felt like I couldn't change my mind. Think about it logically. We make some decisions when you're like 19, 18 years old. You can't expect your 28, 29-year-old to be thinking the same way. We are changing every day. We are growing every day, and our experiences shape our perspective of the world. With that being said, how you thought 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even last year is different than how you think today because you've undergone new experiences and acquired new knowledge. And so you may change your mind, and that's okay. You are allowed to start a business and then stop it because you decide that's no longer what you want to do. You're allowed to go to school for one thing and then change your mind because you think you like something else. You're allowed to start a career and build in that career and then decide you want to quit and start from scratch. You're allowed to leave situations. You're allowed to change your mind on decisions that you once made because you have new information now. That is what growth is. You cannot keep yourself in the mental prison of having to stay in the same spot just because you once said something and you now no longer believe that thing. You're allowed to be friends with people and endorse people and then later decide you don't want to be friends with them or endorse them anymore. It's allowed. New information changes people's mind. You're allowed to change your mind. So many times I stayed in situations, relationships, friendships, jobs, opportunities that had died or were expired and I was being stagnant in just because I was afraid of changing my mind. Just because I publicly once said I endorsed this person, I felt like I had to keep being friends with them or keep endorsing them. You don't. Just because I publicly once said I love this job meant that I had to stay there. You don't. Just because I once said that I wanted to do this and I believed that this is what God was calling me to do, and now I realize that it's not, doesn't mean that I have to stay in it. You are allowed to change your mind. Your 20s are for discovering yourself, anyways. And one of the ways in which you discover yourself is by trying things that you think you like, which you later realize that you don't. It's allowed. Do not imprison yourself to stay in situations that you no longer want to be in just because you're afraid of changing your mind. You are allowed to change your mind. Number 4, you have not met all the people that will love you yet. You have not met all the people that will love you yet. I know this one all too well. Sometimes you can feel like you live in a bubble. You feel like you've been, maybe you've been in your same city your whole life. You've seen all the same people. Everybody knows everybody, and you feel like there's no more to life. But there are literally billions of people on this planet, if not trillions. There's so many countries, so many people that you have never met, that you have never seen. You have not met all the people that will love you yet. There's so many people that you have yet to meet, so many people that you have yet to discover that will play key roles in your life. Think about it this way. Some of you watching this are living your life and you haven't met your husband yet. You have no idea who he is, where he is, what he's doing, where he will be from. And one day you will meet that person and they will change the course of your whole life. You will no longer be single. You will be married and you will be doing your life with this person. And you have no idea who they are. Just like that, there are bosses, there are friends, there are people that you are going to meet that are going to love you, that are going to help you through this thing called life that you don't even know yet. You haven't even heard of, and you have no idea where they are. It's easy to feel like you're in a bubble and you've seen all there is to see because of the routine of life, but there is so much more world out there. You live in one country. There are so many other countries and so many other people waiting to encounter you. You have to get out there and meet them. And so if you have the opportunity to travel, to move abroad, to meet people via the internet and all the different tools that we have, utilize those because you have not met all the people that are going to love you yet. And so that one is just to encourage someone who feels like they're in a stagnant situation and they feel like, maybe they can't make friends, or they don't have a lot of friends, or they won't have a lot of friends in their life. Know that you have not met all the people who are going to love you yet. There's so much more people to meet. There's so many more people that will love you, that will cherish you, that will honor you, will make your life beautiful. They will walk by you, they will do life with you, and you will experience true love through friendship, through romantic love, through family, and people that you have yet to meet. So stay optimistic, keep doing you, look out for these people, and be able to recognize them when you find them. And finally, number 5, you don't have to settle. You don't have to settle. You can have everything that God has promised you. You can have it all. You really can have it all. People love to say you can't have it all. You need to. No, it's not true. You can have it all. You have a God that specializes in doing all things, not some things, all things. Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things, not some things, all things through Christ. As long as it's in alignment with the will of God for your life, you can have it. You can have it all with God as your help. You can. You do not have to settle. You don't have to settle in friendships. You don't have to settle in your career. You don't have to settle in your job. You don't have to settle in your relationship. You don't have to take just enough because you feel like that's all that there is or that's all that you deserve. There is more. You deserve the best. You are God's daughter. You are God's son. You are a prince. You are a princess. You are royalty, a royal priesthood. You're the daughter of a king. You're the son of a king. You do not deserve the bare minimum. You deserve the best. The thing is, sometimes waiting for the best means waiting longer. Sometimes trying to get the best means working harder. And so there's a part where you have to play. There's a part where you have to play in patience and in hard work to make sure that you're getting the best. But you don't have to settle for less just because it's offered. We, especially those of us that are African American, we sometimes grow up just settling for less. We've grown up around a culture of just taking what we can get, doing what we can to get by. And so we unconsciously develop this bias in our mind that we just need to do what we can to get by, or we just need to accept what's offered. I fell into that trap and I realized that I was living below my potential. And the things that I really wanted, the things that I really dreamt of, the things that I really believed for my life, I was not getting because one, I was not doing the work to get them, or I was not taking the time to wait for them because I thought in my mind that I just needed to get what I needed to get by. But that's not true. God's best is out there in everything for you, and you deserve that best, and you can get it. You can have it all with God in accordance to his will. I'm going to put that disclaimer there because we are not moving ahead of God to get the best that we think for ourselves. God's best is the key detail. You can have God's best for you, and you will have God's best for you when you're walking with him. The Bible says in Isaiah 30:21, and your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. That goes back to walking with God. When you're walking with God, God can show you where to go, where not to go, what to do, what not to do. And when he's showing you that, and when he's leading you to his best. And so it all ties together. Knowing God, walking with God, hearing his voice, getting his best. You don't have to settle. You can have God's best for you, but it comes down to letting him lead you. And so those are 5 things that I learned in my 20s that helped me to conquer them. Like I said, it wasn't always smooth. They had me in the first half. It was a little messy, but things leveled out when I learned these 5 things. And they have been lessons that have guided my life thus far. And now at 29, I look forward to 30 because I feel like, yes, I fulfilled my 20s. It was an amazing decade, and I'm looking forward to the next decade. I'm not looking back with regrets. I'm not looking back wishing that I had done more. I'm not looking back feeling like, oh, I didn't accomplish enough, because I learned these lessons. So I hope these lessons can help you to navigate your 20s and conquer them as well. Let me know down below if you would like me to share 5 more things that I learned in my 20s that can help you conquer yours, as well as share with me some of the things that you learned that have helped you conquer your 20s. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video so that you can join the family, be one of us, get locked in, and keep up with everything Risa. See you next week. Bye.